Yeah. Cool. Oh, is my internet shoddy? Did you
Um,
guys freeze
it
or is
just
that my fault?
it froze on
No,
my
we all
side
froze.
for a second. But what's cool about this is, regardless, it's recording locally everywhere, so we should be fine. Even if there's like little glitches here and there. You know
Yay.
about this. I don't have to teach you anything.
No, we know
We love a
things.
glitch.
We love a glitch. Okay, so for those who don't know, you guys are technically coming from like Starboard Communications, right? It's
Hmm.
a
Yeah.
locally family run company out of Belleville, Ontario. You guys have two radio stations, Cool 100.1 and 955 Hits FM, and a ton of podcasts, which is why we're here today, because you guys host the Babes of Queenie podcast. But before we get into a bunch of questions on that, because I feel like myself and anyone else who I know is starting a podcast is going to really benefit from your experience. You guys just celebrated your 1 year anniversary. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Crazy.
Yeah, I actually just listened to your anniversary episode too.
Oh
So
boy.
I did my
Oh
homework.
god.
I think I blacked
No, it
out.
was no, it was really sweet. And it's nice because it's a little bit more of like a personal approach too, right? Because you guys get
Yeah.
to share, I guess, more about yourselves, whereas you're more
Hmm.
focused on interviewing other people for the
Hmm.
most part.
Yeah.
But I feel like when I was a guest on your podcast, we there was a lot of back and forth, and I got to know you girls a lot too. So
Yeah. Yeah. We try to keep it light.
yeah, you try to keep it light. It's fun. So Kate, we have Kate and Kay here. For people following, we're gonna try and catch on. If you listen to the Babes of Quinny podcast, you're so familiar with them. But for anyone here, Kate, this Starboard Communications is a family-run business, and it's your family, right?
Yeah, it is.
You've been around for like since you were 7 years old, right? So third
Hmm.
generation, from what I understood, working in the business. I'm curious to know from your perspective, like what's that been like being able to have this place to turn to for work all the time? Because I know you have mixed emotions.
Um, I guess like sometimes it wasn't a choice. Like I think when you're in a family
Mm-hmm.
business, you kind of are all just expected to show up. So my brother too, we started we were the original cleaning crew of the office when we were in elementary school.
Oh.
So that was like our first job at the office. And then I think most of the kids of staff at the station have worked road crew in some aspect. I've also like had to put audio on the radio, like you're in on the weekends, putting stuff on the radio. And yeah, I worked in a lot of fields. I never wanted to, I never thought I would go into the family business. I
Mm-hmm.
assumed my brother may have taken on that role. Because I was just kind of
Is he
like,
not involved?
no,
Is he involved in
he's
the
a
company?
firefighter. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah, totally different field.
yeah, I think for a while we thought he was like, I think my dad was kind of thinking it was going to be him. And then plot twist, it was the mentally unstable one that came back. So yeah, I fought it for a long time, but coming back felt really right. And I am very passionate about it. And working with family is definitely interesting, but it's a good
Hmm.
time.
What's been like the most difficult thing about working with your family?
You know a lot about each other's lives, so uh,
Yeah.
my mom kind of has a rule that my dad and I aren't allowed to talk about work on the weekends. And also just like when you're going through family shit, but you're still trying to deal. Oh, sorry, are we allowed to swear?
Of
Oh, okay.
course.
When you're going through like family stuff, but you're still trying to show up at work, and you know, I know what my dad's going through on a different level, so just trying to manage the two sides of the emotions, I guess.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I mean, I've been in working relationships with family members before, and it's tough because there's that fine line of, whether you're working together or someone's your boss and then you bring that home. Like, I feel like it can cause a lot of arguments if you don't know how to really set those boundaries and separate it. So I think that's really cool that you guys have that little weekend rule. It's nice.
Yeah, I don't know if we follow it, but it's there.
You try.
We
At least it's
try,
there,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They're there for us to try.
Yeah.
And so, Kay, you've been working at Starboard for like 8 years now, so you're practically
Yeah.
family, right?
I mean,
um,
I literally have Katie's mother's cat like on the end of my bed right now.
Yeah.
Wait, what do you mean? How?
She's cat
Oh,
sitting.
I'm cat
Oh, you're
sitting because
cat
her parents.
sitting.
Yeah, so like I'd like to believe I'm part of the
You
family.
are.
I'm like I'm just forcing myself
Mhm.
in.
We accept her.
So you're working as the digital media manager, right?
Yeah.
What does your role look like? Actually, the both of you, I'm curious to see like how you balance each other out, like at the company, and what your responsibilities are as individuals.
So my role has changed like a ton
Mm-hmm.
because when I first started, they were like, we don't know why we need you, but we know we need you.
Right.
And I was like, okay, like I know how to social media. Like I know how to make things look kind of pretty for the
Mm-hmm.
internet and for billboards and like all these things that would need graphic stuff. So my role started as mainly doing social media management and graphic design. Since then, uh, I've taken like I just actually I'm taking a class at college for digital analytics.
Sweet.
So I'm
I've
just
seen you doing
learning.
like cool animations and stuff too, which is like hard
Oh
as
yeah, that's
shit.
just
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's just me like goofing around on my iPad.
Oh, so sick.
Yeah, so I'm kind of branching out into like doing just lots of like other like everything. Like if I can do something on the internet, like that's kind of where I fit in.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really into like digital analytics right now and how to use like cookies and like ads and how to like strategize like digital ads to make the most sense for businesses.
Give me
So
like the
that's
high level because that's like Chinese for me. I have a team that like supports in that scope, but
mhm.
my background is obviously like more in the creative and the design, and that's a little bit more technical. So, like, what is the importance? Because everyone lands on these websites, we have to accept cookies. We don't really know what the hell we're doing. We're basically signing off like
Yeah.
all of our information to every single company out there.
Yeah.
So, like, what are you studying? Tell us.
So the way cookies work, when you go to a website, cookies are like a tiny, like they're just like a pixel.
Okay.
And this website will keep that pixel. And it has just like basic information. It'll be like, if you're logging into a website, like say 2 hours later, you go back to the website, you're still logged in. So like that's like a
Oh,
part of a cookie.
okay.
And then there's like location cookies. So, you're being shown like products or services that are in your area. So like that's a cookie. And then there's like the remarketing cookies, which I think are really interesting. So when you put stuff in your cart and then you like abandon it, you'll start getting ads telling you, be like, oh, hey, you left this in your cart. You left this in your
Yeah.
cart. That's because they have a specific remarketing cookie that pings it to you directly.
So
Um,
crazy how that stuff works, eh? Like someone had to think of this weird code and algorithm to be
mhm.
like, this is what happens when they click here, and we're gonna send them an email and we're gonna make them purchase and da da da. Like it's wild how this all
Yeah,
works.
it's crazy because like now I know how to set it all up and to make it all work.
You
So I'm just
do?
like, yeah. So I just
Amazing.
finished, like, I just built like a whole like 3 month marketing campaign, and it integrates all like display ads, search ads, social ads, like all these things, and they all like work together.
Hmm.
And I just think it's fascinating. And then just like reading the data and making sure that you're adjusting your campaigns
Yeah,
so that
that's a
they're the
big
most
thing.
effective for you, because you
Hmm.
don't want to just keep running a campaign and it be like, oh hey, like we're not getting anything out of this. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
we'll
that's
find
it.
out where within the steps of the process that
Yeah.
it's not working.
Makes sense.
But yeah.
So with Nomad Creative, we've been growing organically for the last 5 years and recently
Mm-hmm.
just started reinvesting back in the company. So we hired a paid media company to put together like a proper strategy and set up email flows, as well as ad campaigns, etc.
Yeah.
Um, which like first of all took way longer than I thought to set up. Like the email flows, especially, like it's been almost like 3 months of just like setup.
Hmm.
So which in
It's a
my opinion
ton of
is
work.
almost too long.
It's a
But
it's so much work just to make sure things flow the way you really want them to.
yeah, well, I mean, so we just launched it maybe like a week or two ago. And it takes time, right? Like for
Hmm.
anyone who is maybe unfamiliar with running ads, when you first launch an ad campaign, it takes what, like 3 months before you could even really see any conversion
Yeah.
because you're constantly looking at data, you're testing things out. They call it A/B testing, right? Whether it's a
Hmm.
change in copy, change in color, change in background, like there are so many different variables that you can test. And like you said, it's like you want to make sure that you're putting your money behind what's generating the most like leads
Yeah.
or like revenue, right?
Hmm.
So you're constantly redirecting that money and then getting rid of the ones that aren't working until you finally find that like secret sauce, which I mean
Yeah.
it could be secret sauce for a little while and then it might change because it's constantly evolving, but
Exactly.
you kind of like run with it while it works and then go from there, I guess, right?
I just think it's fascinating.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Katie, are you involved in any of this or are you like this is Chinese?
No, I'm not really involved. I like looking at the analytics she collects. I find it very
Yeah.
useful, but no, Kay's like a wizard. I'm probably one of her biggest fans. She does the job of probably 4 or 5 people, so
Mm-hmm.
she can never leave, but she knows that. No, yeah, I don't really. I have a brief understanding and love her passion for it. So I learn as much as I can from her.
So how are you ladies able to use those analytics to like help support your podcast and then all the other initiatives that you're working on within Starboard Communications?
So once Kay collects all the analytics, which is insane, like from all the websites, all socials, everywhere from a sales point of view, because I work in sales a bit too, you're
Mm-hmm.
able to use that data to kind of help build campaigns for clients and figure out strategies and market our business in coordination with clients who want to advertise with us. So for the podcast, we use the analytics to show like our partners how often people are listening to the episodes, our socials, and then also we can see where people are dropping off in listening. Like they may take a break, so because our episodes are kind of long, so people will kind of
Mm-hmm.
take a break around 45 minutes. So we have it that our partners um, their ads run before that 45-minute mark.
Yeah, makes sense. No, it's been cool even. I mean, I've only been doing this for I guess a few weeks now. I think you guys are like episode 9 or something like that.
Well,
Um or nice and early on. But I love looking at the analytics and
Hmm.
I'm like so
it's
curious to
so
see how it's
fun.
going to change and grow. Like what's the growth that you guys have seen since starting? Like are you surprised? Are you like overwhelmed, underwhelmed? Like what is the overall, I guess like overview of the change in your stats?
I'm like I'm constantly like surprised every month when we get our analytics back. Like
Hmm.
it's wild. Like sometimes I'll be like, "Oh my God, like we grew like 147% this month."
Yeah.
Like
Wow.
what
Yeah.
is going on? But yeah, no, it just I think the fact that we're still doing it after a year and like we have people reaching out to us to be guests, it just on the whole thing is just mind blowing to me. The fact that it's taken off and people are embracing it in a way that is meaningful to them and they're actually listening to the episodes and engaging in our socials and like every month the numbers keep going up and I'm
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
like what is going on?
Yeah.
So, like when you're saying you grow like by 140 something percent, is there something that contributes to that growth? Is it typically like a specific guest or a series of guests or a certain campaign or an advertiser? Have you found a pattern or is it kind of sporadic at this point?
It definitely has to do with um, the guest a bit because if they have like a following already, it and they share it to their
Hmm.
socials, it gets our listenership and our socials up. But I think there's still people too who are just listening through because I'll think that an episode didn't do as well as I wanted it to do, and then you check back a month later and it's still growing. So I think it
Right.
just
Yeah.
shows that people are listening, which is we say it all the time is truly shocking because we this was a
You're
whim.
engaging. That's
Yeah,
why.
apparently.
Apparently.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah, for me it's like when I see that episodes that we did like 2 or 3 months ago that are still growing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the cool thing about podcasting, in a sense, is that, you know, you can put episodes out now, but people can still listen back to the older ones. And like
Oh yeah.
those ones are still, you know, contributing to like our listen count and our downloads or
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And have you noticed like the specific ones that people go back to? Like, are they gravitating more towards a specific type of business or type of person, industry topic, anything like that? Or it's super random still? No, no
Oh,
trends.
I think it's not that I'm basing this off analytics. I believe it's based off of how open the people are that come on. So people who are very open with their business and their journey on socials and
Mm,
in their own life, and then they come on and we give them a longer time to talk and tell us about it. I find those episodes people just want to know more.
yeah.
So,
yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense.
I think, yeah, definitely, just to mirror what Katie said, it's just when you have someone who's already very open on the internet and then they come and, you know, you can listen to them talk for an hour and you kind of just like shoot the shit. And it's like, it's a more casual, like less, say like less curated
Mm-hmm.
situation. Yeah, I think those episodes tend to do a lot better. Like there's been tons of guests that I'm just kind of like, okay, like this is going to be fine. And then those episodes are the ones that have like the most downloads.
oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's insane. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, people only get so much off like Instagram, right? Like you get little
Yeah.
snippets here and there. So podcasting is a great way to kind of showcase yourself and your true colors. So anyone who runs a
Mm-hmm.
business in the Bay
Yeah.
of Quinte area,
Mm-hmm.
Babes of Quinte are waiting for you.
Yeah, I think too
Yeah.
it's,
um,
And like,
oh, sorry, you go, okay.
I just think that like it's even just to like tell like the stories of businesses and like how
mhm,
they got to where they are. Because there have been businesses that have reached out to us and they're just like, oh, we just want to like promote our business. And I'm like, okay, well, like we want to know like the nitty gritty, like dirty details of
Mm-hmm.
things. It's like we want to know like where you grew up, how you got to this point. And I think that kind of storytelling is like
mhm.
so powerful. And like every time we talk to somebody, I'm just like, okay, like, are we best friends
Yeah,
now?
every time.
It's
Like,
weird. It's weird how close you get to someone by like just
yeah,
having these little conversations, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Because even with you guys, think about it. Like I came on your podcast, we didn't know each other before,
yeah,
and now it's like we chat all the time
Mm-hmm.
on social media. If I see you at networking events, it's like, hey, what's up? Like as
Yeah,
if we've almost known each other forever. And you just have this different level of comfort when you're willing to, I guess, like put yourself out there and share with people.
for
And
sure.
mm-hmm.
you're equally as open, right? I would argue, because if you both weren't, then people wouldn't be as comfortable sharing all of
Yeah.
those things and their stories with you. So it's like kudos goes out to you for also making people feel comfortable enough to share.
We try.
You
Thank
guys are
you.
like giggling in the back. You're like, okay.
We don't take
You can
compliments
say
well.
thank you. You can
Yeah.
say thank you.
Thank you. We're working on that whole taking compliments.
Yeah, I'm not
Well,
very good at it. But
No.
like, and it's funny because it's like I feel like I share a lot, but also there's like so
Mm-hmm.
much that people don't know.
Mm-hmm.
of course, of course.
You know
I
what I
mean, you
mean? It's like it's
you got to keep
wild.
some things to yourself.
Yeah, I'm bad at keeping
Yeah.
secrets, but I try for something.
Okay, so I feel like we've been talking about your podcast. I want to kind of like backtrack a little bit on like the name of the podcast, how it started. You guys obviously met at the radio station, right? I would
Mm-hmm.
assume.
Yeah.
So like how did it get started? What inspired the idea, the name? Go.
I guess I'll tell my side first.
Okay.
So I was working remote at another job and I hated it and I cried a lot at my desk. And then my mom
Mm,
came to kind of talk me out of a downward spiral and she said that I could probably come back to the radio station and work. And probably for
mhm.
5 years I've been like, I want to start a podcast because I have access to this radio station.
Yeah.
And when I was kind of miserable at my job, I thought of a podcast where I talked to people like business owners about how they got to where they were because I really struggled in my journey and figuring out like what I wanted to do. And I was not a linear path. And I think I believe that everyone had this linear path, mostly because of social media. But so I told John, my boss and father, about my idea, kind of leading up to my time coming back. And I had the idea of calling it Do You Like That? Because once my friend, I told her like what I did at when I was farming, and she went, "Do you like that?" And I was like, "Yeah." But then Kay,
Did you?
yeah, I loved farming.
Did
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
Okay.
So, and then Kay just finishes the story kind of.
Yeah, so I just saw, okay, so a part of my job at the time, like pre-pandemic, was making content while artists came into the Cool 100 studio or the 95.5 studio. So my boss, Paul Ferguson, he's really good at like talking to people and getting people to tell their stories and like relating to people like on a level. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why he wins national awards. So like he's just fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And like just being able to sit in on that storytelling, I was like, there's got to be a way to do this locally because there's so many cool businesses out there that I would be following on Instagram. And I'm like, how do we, like, we have the way, like, we have the technology to tell
Yeah.
a story. I'm like, how do we use this to, like, boost up, like, businesses and people that have cool stories? Because on radio, too, like, you only have a certain amount of time to tell a story. So I was like, oh my God, a podcast. This makes perfect sense. So I pitched it to my boss, and he's like, yeah, that's a great idea. And then he told John, and then John was like, oh yeah, Katie had an idea for a podcast too. And then he was just like, you need to talk to Katie because we had like our yearly review or something. And he's like, yeah, no, you need to talk to Katie about podcasting. And then I just messaged her. I was like, so what was it like? So you want to start a podcast?
Yeah, I think she was like, "I hear you have a podcast idea. Same. Want to start a podcast?" And it was all on Facebook Messenger. That's how this whole idea unraveled because I was working from
Yeah.
home the first little while, so we weren't even in the same office and we were just coming up with ideas. Kay was a mad woman and created the logo and like worked on the website and got the Instagram ready. And then eventually I learned to edit episodes, and I think it took us about 2 months to like
Yeah.
fully convince the bosses and record and get an episode ready.
Isn't it funny how like quickly things move though when you're excited and motivated and you just want to
yeah.
do it?
Yeah.
Like same thing with mine. I think when I was on your podcast a few months ago, I was talking about the idea of starting a podcast and like I knew I wanted to do it, but my whole hesitation was that I didn't necessarily want to do it alone. There was a lot of fear that was stopping me from doing it, but I had been thinking about it for over a year. And it was, I guess, similar concept to yours in the sense that like I wanted to learn from other people's stories and failures in business, entrepreneurship, and also talk about the things that are important to me, and then share some insight on my company as I'm growing it too. So there's like a few different levels there. But yeah, I was scared. I was scared to do it alone. I was kind of like waiting for the right person to do it with me, asking people. And I was like, yeah, okay, we could do it this way. We could do it that way. And we were about to start, a friend and I, and last minute, she was like, you know what? In the end, I don't think this aligns with like where I want to go with my business. So like, I can't do this with you. And I had a choice. I was like, all right, well, either I just like bite the bullet and go for it alone and face my fears and figure it out, or I wait for the next person and whatever, and then maybe it'll never happen. So I was like, you know what? Screw it. Get on Amazon, order all the equipment, pick the name, get the logo, hire my creative director and graphic designers to like create the artwork. And literally within 2 weeks, I was like up and running. I was so like, it was just like instinct based. I was like, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do. This all feels right. Boom, boom, boom. Done. Next thing you know, I'm recording a freaking podcast. And you guys were helping me with the audio too, because I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I bought like 5 different mics, trying to test these things out. Everyone's trying to like support me and troubleshoot and this and that. But I was just so eager and excited that I was like, it doesn't even have to be perfect. Like I think the first 1 or 2 episodes was like with a bit of a shittier mic. I didn't have like the proper equipment, and then you make your adjustments, and then whatever, people, if they're interested, they're going to listen regardless. I mean, as long as there's not like ringing in their ears, So
I find there's like 2 different kinds of people. There's people who want to do it like perfect from the outset, and they'll learn everything they need to know about it, and then they'll put out product. And then there's the people who learn by just doing it.
I think that's the only way, personally.
For me, I just learned by doing it. And it's like, even with our branding, it's changed. Like we had like a multicolor logo, And then we did merch, and Northern Craft Supply was like, let's do like
Yeah,
a monotone
Mm-hmm.
thing. And I
Monochromatic,
was
yeah.
like,
we
damn,
like
that's
that. Yeah.
hot. So we've been running with that now. And like even now I'm like, oh, there's so much I want to change.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
definitely
little
But yeah, it's one of those
things.
growing.
things.
But I've noticed your artwork and stuff too. That's Kay, right? You're doing all of the
Yeah.
design stuff. I love it. I mean, coming from a creative myself, I really think you guys are doing a great job. Like I love the way that you've branded yourselves, the graphics that you put out with every single episode. It takes a lot of time and work to do that stuff, you know.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
know firsthand.
Yeah.
Because we said
It's
in
time
the
consuming.
in our anniversary episode, we got a little excited at the beginning because we were gonna do every two
Hmm.
weeks, and then we had two
Yeah,
episodes recorded, so we were like, let's just go every week. That was
put it
a
out
big
there.
choice. And we did it, and we kept
Hmm.
doing it, and it's
Yeah.
a choice. And it's
And now you're
working.
fully booked. And now
Yeah,
you're like booked for like months ahead.
yeah,
Which is insane to me.
yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm confused, but it's great. I love it.
So why babes? Why babes of Quinny?
Honestly, it's just like a play on words of Bay of Quinny.
Mm,
Okay.
And I like the idea of like using that word as like a positive thing to describe people, because I always call people babes.
hmm
I'm
Hmm.
like, yeah, no, she's a babe, he's a babe, they're a babe. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's always just like been a word that I use.
Hmm.
Um, and I just think everybody can be a babe. And I think that it doesn't matter like who you are, how you identify, like who you love. I just wanted to take that word and kind of give it a more positive connotation. And yeah, I was also really just stoned. So
Did
I
you?
thought it was funny. I thought it was funny, and I like a play on words.
hmm
But yeah, I was mostly just stoned.
No, I mean, I think I don't remember where it was. I was trying to find it before you guys came on. Maybe it was in one of your like earlier posts, but you were saying like the definition of a
hmm
babe, right? It's like
Yeah,
because I feel like when people hear babe, they think maybe like a woman, but it's not necessarily just a woman,
it
right?
could
It can
be
be anyone,
anybody.
and it's really just like someone who eludes confidence, right?
Yeah,
And I guess wants to like lift people up. So I
for
love
sure.
that premise and that concept over it. Like I think there can be some misconceptions right out there where
Oh,
people think like
absolutely. And
Yeah,
babes
there
as a
have
certain,
been.
yeah. There have
of
There
course.
been.
absolutely has been.
Do you want to talk about that at all, about like any pushback that you've received?
We got one pushback. Like the biggest pushback I guess we've had externally is like someone didn't like that we use the term babe because
Mm-hmm.
um they thought it was like not feminist, which
Mm-hmm.
was hard for me because we're very feminist. We are pro
Huge.
huge
Like
feminists, like
all the
women's
good things,
rights,
like human
yeah,
rights.
human rights in general. Um, and I think people can assume what we're doing with the name and assume we're,
Mm-hmm.
quote unquote ditzy or whatever. I think our font and that name is really fun. But then on the other hand, when you actually get below the surface, we're giving a voice to um, women, men, people of color, queer,
Mhm.
like organizations within the community that are not necessarily like that are helping unhoused populations, and we're really trying to give a voice to all of these different people. And that's kind
Mm-hmm.
of to me what a babe is. Like babes can just lift each other up, and I think that's the biggest point about it.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
think with anything that you do, there's always going to be that other point of view, right?
Hmm
And someone who's going to push back and someone who's going to challenge. And truth
Absolutely.
be told, it's a reflection of their insecurities and their shit that they haven't dealt with and they have to work with. I
Yeah.
think that if your message is clear to you and your intentions are pure, that's all that
Mhm.
matters. Like I really do believe that like the intention behind anything that you do is really what will translate out in the real world.
hmm
And
Yeah,
anyone who doesn't receive it in that way, it's not a you thing, it's a them thing, you know, to a
for
degree,
sure.
for the most part,
Yeah.
let's say.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
like realistically, like there's nothing, if people were to just like judge us by the name, like you're not getting a full scope of what we're doing.
of course. It's so
Even if you
like
were just to
tiny.
scroll the social
Yeah.
media, like you would see, like you would understand kind of who we are as people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but just to judge based on a name is not giving us a fair shot. for
Yeah.
yourself to maybe
Yeah.
learn something new about the community that you live in.
Well,
I
that's it. Like you have to be
Yeah,
open-minded.
I think to it also on a deeper meaning that I just thought of, it also kind of reflects, I find how people sometimes look at Kay and I because we both have tattoos, we both had fun hair, we're both mentally ill, but sometimes we get judged. Like I'm very loud. I find sometimes I get judged before people actually know me. And
Hmm.
I find people either like me or they don't like me, and if they don't take the chance to know me. And I think same with Kay, like we're a lot. I've been told that. We are trying to de-learn that, I guess, if that's a saying. So I think that's also, you can judge the name by it, but until you actually listen to it, and get to know it, you don't know what we're trying to do or what we're doing. So
Yeah, absolutely. And, I did take note of this because you guys spoke about this on your last episode about being too much, right? And being called out for being too much. And I
Yeah.
definitely connect and can relate with that because it's happened to me. And it's a narrative that's kind of reoccurred in my life over and over. And I think that what happens is that people kind of get, intimidated or thrown off by someone who is confident in who they are, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
appears to be, because I think we all still have our insecurities, but
hmm
it's like you choose to, portray yourself in a certain way, and being authentic to yourself sometimes doesn't always sit well with others because they're like, whoa, why are they
Mm-hmm.
so out there? Why are they so energetic? Why are they so funny? Why are they so silly? Why do you care?
hmm
Like, what is it to you? Like, why does it bother you so much? And if someone else is bothering you, that's a mirror of something that is not sitting well within yourself. So I totally like connected with when you said that, Katie, on your podcast, because it's something that I've struggled with even within like closer circles and having
hmm
to reevaluate friendships, as I've grown over the years. Cause it's like, listen, like I'm not going to dim my light. I'm not going to continue to pursue my
Absolutely
goals
not.
or,
hmm
be the best version of myself if it makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Sorry, like that's not
Yeah.
the case with everyone. And so like I know that you girls are both dealing with that in your own ways. So I just want to kind of encourage you to not dim your light and keep doing what you're doing, because I
Yeah.
Thank
love
you.
following your stuff and you guys are so funny, and so authentic and just like yourselves. You could tell that it's unfiltered, that you're trying not to care so much about what other people have to say, right? And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's like the biggest approach, the best approach, I should say. When I first started my podcast, like I was not the one to talk into my phone, like on social media. It's kind of like weird and awkward and like a bit cringeworthy. But I
Mm-hmm.
remember asking my husband to like watch back some of my first stories because I was like, I really didn't want to come off as like overly prepared. So I just pressed the button and talked without thinking and hope that it came off as like genuine,
hmm
because it's
Mm-hmm.
very easy for everyone to just kind of click on and be like, hi guys, no, no, no. And then all of a sudden your voice changes and like you're making sure
Oh
you're
yeah.
saying all the right things. And like, I for sure was guilty of that in the past, but I'm like moving forward, it's like obviously you want to put out a certain energy, but at the
hmm
same
Mm-hmm.
time, like make sure that it's authentic to you and that you're not just trying to like copy what someone else is doing, because the reason
Yeah.
why other people are successful is not because they're copying other people. It's because they are true to themselves and portraying the most authentic version of themselves.
hmm
Yeah,
I
for sure.
agree.
And I find that too with our guests, like the ones that are succeeding and doing really well are not apologizing for who they are.
Mm-hmm.
They're, they are who they are. And if they're like, I always have this thing where I'm like, if I'm too much, like that's not my problem.
hmm
You know what I mean?
No.
Like, then go find less.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, it's not
We're not meant
like
to
that's
be friends. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh
it's
yeah.
just like I literally had a friend once tell me that we couldn't be friends anymore because I was too successful. And I'm like, am I?
Oh.
It's like I'm like, am I though? I'm like, I
But
just have this
wait, like
job.
on that, what would you say? Like, how do you define success? Because success
Well, that's the thing.
has so many levels, right?
It really it's so personal to everybody's journey.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, there's no one answer that's correct because it's like my version of success. I was like, oh yeah, and like I'll be stoked if this podcast hits 1,000 downloads. And like we flew past that.
Yeah.
So it's like so it's an ever growing type of situation.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it's like, do I have a roof over my head? Are my kids happy? Are they fed? Can I like live a comfortable life with my kids? Like that's
Mm-hmm.
success to me.
Yeah.
And I think I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
I love that. What about you, Katie? What's success in your mind? How would you define success?
I think just being happy. I
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really it. I struggle with my mental health. Like I go through major depressive episodes, so if I can just be happy for longer periods of time and happy in my job and the decisions I make, then I'm good. I'm successful in my books. Like and really just like
Yeah.
making my family proud, I think is that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I
I
love
think you
that.
do.
Your family proud and yourself proud, right? You
Yeah.
want to make yourself proud too. But one little thing that my old life coach, who's now become a good friend of mine, she was one of the earlier guests on my podcast, and she was saying like her definition of success is that she's succeeding multiple times, hundreds of times in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Because success
Yeah.
could be waking up in the morning and making your bed. Success could be having your cup of coffee after a breakfast and a workout, like success could be
Mhm.
going out to the grocery store and get like little things can be success. Like if you start looking at success differently, then you
Mm-hmm.
end your day being like, wow, look at all of the things that I've achieved today. And
Yeah.
it sounds
For
so
sure.
stupid and silly because so many of the things that we do, I guess, believe in our heads to be kind of like mundane. But if you think about it, it's like, I was able to go to the grocery store and support myself and feed my body and nourish myself with the
Mm-hmm.
money that I made doing the work that I love. Like, no one thinks like that every single day,
No.
And
No,
it's that
but
level of gratitude that I feel people need
mhm.
to kind of drop back on to really be able to feel successful without having to put like a monetary amount to it.
Yeah.
It's like a monetary success is like the lowest thing on my,
Yeah.
like it doesn't fulfill me.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
do I like money?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who doesn't like money?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like it doesn't fulfill me. Like it
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
doesn't, make me feel safe. It doesn't make me feel, grateful. It doesn't do anything for me. It's just one of
Mm-hmm.
those things in life that you have to do. But it's like, are the people who I love, still loving me? Am I doing good? Am I trying to like do good in the world? All these other things. It's like that's success to me. It's like,
Yeah, for sure. And everyone's
being
going to
able to
have
like
their own definition, right? And sometimes
absolutely,
that like monetary success is on a higher level for some
Mm-hmm.
people, which is
by
totally
all
cool.
means, that's
Yeah.
totally fine. Like no problems with that. If you want to get that money, like
Get
let's
it.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I encourage it. I think it's important to have a good and positive relationship with money. It is,
Oh yeah,
important to have a certain quality of life and all of that, but it is not the be all end all. Is really, I think, what we're all trying to get to here is that
yeah,
there is so much more. And like, I just feel like traditionally success is defined like through a financial,
yeah.
number or achievement. When I want to kind of change that narrative and be like, hey, you can actually be successful in a lot of other different ways. And so the people that I'm talking to on my podcast, I speak to successful people. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean that they're all
Mm-hmm.
multimillionaires, like
I
that's
am
not
not.
what.
Yeah.
Well, neither am I. Okay. Like,
Perfect.
I think though because we went to Brazen, like Jenny Chandler from Simple
hmm
Death put on Brazen, and one of the speakers, I forget her name, I'm horrible, but she was just saying like how do you measure your wealth, not just your monetary wealth, like
hmm
your the
hmm
relationships you're making and all of that can add to your wealth. So there's the monetary side of it, but I think there's also just the relationships you're making, how you're making yourself feel, the energy you're putting out into the world. And sometimes it's a lot and you don't feel like you're succeeding because unfortunately I think social media puts everyone puts their best foot forward, obviously. Um, and I think then, as my therapist says, comparison is the thief of joy. So you're comparing and
hmm
trying to base your
Mm.
success off of what someone else is doing, but maybe they're at a different place or doing other things or dealing with other things. So
Yeah.
I think it's hard in this day and age, but you really just have to focus on what is successful to you and where you
hmm
get with it.
Yeah, 100%. So you guys have been doing this podcast thing for like a year now. I want
Mhm.
to know from someone who's just starting out and for anyone else who may be thinking of starting a podcast, what are like some of the biggest lessons that you've learned or like tips that you have for podcasters?
Be prepared.
Yeah.
Be prepared.
Or don't.
Yeah,
For?
like
Or don't.
like you kind of know where you want to guide your
Mhm.
episode.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, like make sure you have like not necessarily like have questions, but like kind of like guiding questions to like make sure the conversation keeps flowing.
Mm-hmm.
But don't get like too in your head if you don't ask a question that's on your
Mhm.
list.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, just kind of like let the conversation flow and like don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like some of my most favorite podcasts I was a guest on, it was more conversational.
Mhm.
And then the
Yeah.
ones where it's like question answer, I feel like the other person is so focused on making sure they ask their questions that their response is like, oh, great, that's cool. Next question. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? And so it's like they're
Yeah.
not really responding. It's like more of really just an interview.
Yeah.
And personally, I prefer to listen to a podcast that's more conversational. So
Same.
Yeah,
that's my
same.
preference. What about you,
Yeah.
Katie?
I think don't give up and just be willing to grow from what mistakes you make and learn from them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess be prepared. Sometimes I don't feel like we're prepared, but we do our best. And yeah, learn as you go because, you know, our earlier episodes, the audio was not good. So I learned that people love to tap a table. So take that table
Yes. Oh
away.
my God. I've noticed that
Yeah.
too.
And
I've noticed
there's
that too.
sounds. So we try to, for the most, like I go into the studio now before this is being prepared and I move things that people can deal with. And then
Touch.
sometimes as we're recording, I'm thinking like, oh, this is going to be an edit because there's things I know I'm going to have to edit out. But also, yeah,
Mhm.
be willing to make the mistake and then grow from it because the episodes we put out originally, I think the quality now is better. I'm biased. And even the way, you know, we've done partnerships and the way we've done socials, it just changes. So just be willing
Yeah.
to grow with what you're doing and adapt.
Mhm. Wait,
And
let's
don't,
go ahead.
sorry, when it comes to taking like monetizing your podcast,
Yes, I was gonna
um,
ask.
yeah, I think the best piece of advice we got
Mm-hmm.
was to not sign like not make sure your contract isn't like a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So because like as your podcast grows, it becomes more valuable.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
you
it's
don't
like
want to
you
be
can
locked in at a
Yeah.
certain like fee. You could charge
Yeah.
more
exactly
down the line kind of
Yeah.
thing.
exactly.
So like
Or you
how
can
long are
change
your
things that
contracts
don't
now?
Our
work for
longest
you.
Yeah,
contracts
you could change.
are like 3 months. We'll do like 3 months. Our one, you have to do a 2 month commitment, like 8 weeks, and then we'll let people do as many as like 3 or 4. But we had a contract coming up, like a longer one, and like one of the 3 month ones, but we realized some things weren't working for us and it wasn't benefiting the client. So, or
Mhm.
our partner that we like to call them partners. So we
Mhm.
redid things and then gave them some more choices and options.
Mhm.
And it means they're not locked into something that's not necessarily not working and we can revamp things and see how we need to change it.
So like what's the format of your partnerships? Like how can people get involved? Is it through like a like affiliate code? Are they paying for advertising? What are your
We
options?
do like old school radio style, I'd say. Like they pay
Yeah.
Okay.
for they can be a BFFL partner, which is like our top tier. It's a bit more expensive. And they get a pre-roll, which means it comes out in the beginning. And then they get a mid-roll before the 45-second mark. And then we have a friends with benefits package because we know people don't love to commit all the time. So that's less time. And then you get a mid-roll and then you get a shorter one at the end of the episode because we know more people may not be listening that long, but they could
Right.
be. And then everything's in our show notes. So if people just reach out if they want to support. And honestly, the great thing is, and we value our partnerships so much because they're not necessarily getting the most impressions, but they're partnering with us because they want to support us. Like that was originally in the beginning. A lot of the feedback we got was local people enjoying what we were doing and wanting to support us. And
Love
because
that.
we're kind of more of a hyper local podcast, I think it
Mhm.
does benefit us because local people want to partner with us. We're not really going for those
Yeah,
big
because
partnerships.
that's it. Would you say the majority of your listeners are local?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell. Can you tell by region or just city or like
I think
country?
you can tell by
Yeah,
country, yeah, on
just
Yeah,
Podbean.
by
we can tell by
country, eh?
country. We can break it down
Hmm.
like many ways.
Yeah, I think
Cool.
most are in Quinty, yeah.
Yeah,
Eh,
the majority is Quinty. Like when it kind of like expands out, it's usually family
Yeah,
of the guests or ourselves,
friends.
Awesome.
our friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to ask you guys, be honest.
Okay.
How have I been doing so far?
You're doing great.
You're doing
Yeah,
good.
this is awesome.
Yeah, no, the biggest thing I think is consistency. And like that's the one, like, you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
a lot of people will start something and they'll do it and they'll do it and then they just like drop off.
Hmm.
But like you're consistently doing
Yeah,
it
you're doing the damn
and you're
thing.
booking guests and you know you're consistently posting to socials and you're like creating engaging content.
Hmm.
Like I think that you're having like valuable conversations.
Yeah.
No, I think you're killing it.
Hmm.
Well, I wasn't looking for like a compliment. I just wanted to say like, Alyssa, get your shit together, or
I
or good
think
job.
that's the
That's all.
thing is like
No, you're
you're
killing
doing
it.
great. Yeah,
Thank you.
because
Thanks.
from the behind the scenes of a podcast, we may be putting episodes out every week, but it's a shit show behind the scenes. And there's days I
Yeah.
show up, I cried in my office before I had to go interview someone. But as long as you're showing up, it usually goes okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Mhm.
You pull it together, you
Hmm.
show up, you have those conversations. I feel like I've definitely gained a lot of value, even just from you both today and all of the guests that
Mhm.
I've interviewed so far. I'm sure you guys feel the same about all of your guests.
Hmm.
Oh, for
So
sure.
thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I loved
Thank you
having
for
Mhm.
having
you.
us.
And I
It
want to
was
come
so
back on
fun.
yours now because I feel like we just didn't have enough time.
Yeah.
Like we were talking and talking and talking. And I was like, damn, like I feel like we could have kept going. Like
Oh
even this
yeah.
conversation, I'm like, we can for sure
Oh
push it,
yeah.
but like, we got to respect the time.
Oh yeah, we have that problem. We're starting to be more mindful because
Yeah.
we'll have like 2 hour conversations and we're like, how are we gonna put this as an
Usually I cap
episode?
it at an hour and a
Well, split
half.
it in two.
Yeah, we've had
Yeah,
to.
exactly. Speaking of being mindful, I end every episode with the mindful minute. So, this is basically an opportunity for you guys to leave a piece of advice for our listeners, whether it's podcast related, personal related, something that's helped support you in your lives. What is one thing that you would want to leave listeners with today, Kay?
Always bring baby wipes everywhere you go. They are
Yes.
invaluable and you will never know when you will need them.
Hmm.
And not only just for the babies, but for you too, I guess, eh?
Oh,
No,
that's
yeah,
what she,
straight
yeah.
up. Like ever
That's
since
what
I had a kid, you can get them in like little like thin packs. They fit in your
Mhm.
purse real well. Because you never not need a wet nap,
This is a
but wet
first, I
naps
have to
are
say.
Oh, she is
I love
prepared.
it.
It is awesome.
It's so on brand. I love it so much. Baby wipes.
Yeah.
Okay, noted. Which
Yeah.
honestly, I can't argue. I feel like that's brilliant.
Yeah,
It is.
it's so
It's
good.
mom. It's
But
She
mom
always
advice.
has
That's all that
baby
is.
wipes and deodorant because I use them.
Yeah.
yeah, smart.
Hmm.
Katie,
You
what
never
about
know.
you?
Go to therapy. That's about it. I think we've learned
Go to
that from a
therapy.
couple guests, and I'm big believers. So
Yeah.
go to therapy. And if you don't think you need it, go to therapy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
because
so
there's
great
always
to
something
talk
you need to
through.
work on.
Yeah.
Mhm. Love it. Amazing. Ladies, where can our listeners find you on social? Shout yourselves out.
So on Instagram, we are Babes of Quinny. We're also babesofquinny.ca. We're also on Facebook. We have the Babes Network, which is our group
Mhm.
that we post things to, and we're hoping that people start posting their
Mhm.
things, whatever. It's just kind of a network to kind of lift everybody up.
Yep.
My personal Instagram is hey.it's k.xo.
Yeah. My personal is Katie_Sharat, but you can mostly Babes is where I post. And then you can also follow at Starboard Communications on Instagram because we're launching that and we've worked really hard on it. So we'll take any follows.
Oh, nice. I'll
Yeah.
make sure to do that. Amazing. Well,
Awesome.
thank you both for being on the podcast and thank you for everyone listening.
Thank
Until
you.
next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, we did it.